Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. A fisherman and his pocket knife. In Australia, a man fishing on the bank of a river, and on his very own property, mind you, got into a life or death battle with a crocodile. He was armed with nothing except his fishing rod and a pocket knife. The crocodile, however, was armed with 2 rows of extraordinarily sharp teeth, as well as millions of years of evolution that has made it an apex killing machine. News reports said that the man was around 60 years old, hardly in any shape to be fighting off a hungry reptile. His name hasn't been released due to privacy reasons, but we know the incident happened on McIver River in North Queensland. We also know that the crocodile surprised this man, lunging out from the water and attacking him by biting his legs. The crocodile grabbed him by both his feet. Then, according to the Department of Environment and Sciences, it tried to drag him into the river. The brave and quick-thinking fisherman grabbed a low-hanging branch from a mangrove tree and tried desperately to hang on. Then, he pulled a move straight out of an action movie and whipped out his pocket knife. He repeatedly stabbed the beast in its head before it finally released its jaws and slipped back into the water defeated. The man then crawled up the bank to safety where he was able to get help. He did, however, end up at the local hospital with minor injuries. Luckily, the crocodile didn't maim or kill him. How do you think you would react if a crocodile grabbed you? Let me know in the comments below. Number 9. Dog fears. A teenager was almost killed in one of the most brutal dog attacks ever in downtown Toronto, Canada. 13-year-old Mohammed Al-Mutaz was at a taekwondo studio when the outbreak occurred. He was taking a class on taekwondo at Black Belt World, where there happened to be a resident American pocket bully named Blue. The owner of both the studio and the dog is Tommy Chang. According to what Mohammed told local news, when the class had finished, he told the instructor that he was scared of dogs and that he didn't want to go near Blue. Mr. Chang then said that it would be better if the boy conquered his fear and approached the dog. The instructor told him that if he didn't overcome his fears, he would never be a national champion in Taekwondo. So Mohammed did just that. He approached the dog, staring into its eyes, and then it jumped on his face and bit him. The kid needed dozens of stitches to get his cheek back into place because the dog had torn it up so badly. The doctors have also told him that because of the scars on his face from the dog bite, it's likely he will be permanently disfigured. Instead of getting over his fears, Mohammed is now scarred for life and severely traumatized. Animals can sense your energy, and if you're scared, they're going to be scared too. Number 8. Rescued from a goose. Dogs aren't the only things that attack people in Canada. The country also has a bit of an issue with rampaging geese. In Edmonton, a man walking his dogs and minding his own business accidentally wandered into the territory of an angry goose. The man's name is Robert Bray, and he was parked in front of his portrait studio when the shocking attack went down. He was preparing to go inside with his 2 dogs when a goose came flying out of nowhere. It was hissing, flapping its wings, making all kinds of horrible noises, and then it attacked his dog. His dog went crazy, but the small canine was no match for the giant goose. Robert was desperately trying to unlock his door to get his dogs out of there, but the goose was making things impossible. The only thing that saved him was his next-door neighbors, who allowed him to run inside their business to seek shelter from the goose. But it still didn't let up. It was attacking the window, viciously trying to break inside so it could finish what it started. The nightmare wasn't over until one of Robert's employees showed up and saved the day with a shovel. She managed to shoo the furious bird away. And from now on, Robert is a little more careful every time he shows up to work. Number 7. Crab hunter in the creek. A crab hunter in India was searching for some yummy crustaceans to eat for dinner when the unthinkable happened. Instead of securing his own dinner, a Royal Bengal tiger came out of the bushes and decided it was going to dine on the hunter himself. The crab hunter and 2 of his friends may have brought this misfortune down on themselves, seeing as they were fishing for crabs in an area that is a known tiger habitat. The forest officials said the habitat is out of bounds for humans, so they shouldn't have been there in the first place. But whether they were supposed to be there or not, all 3 men had a pretty bad time. The crab fishermen suffered head injuries from where the tiger tried to make a meal out of the men who had wandered into its habitat. The two friends in his boat managed to get away without any injuries. Plus, they were heroes. They saved the fisherman from certain death by reportedly fighting hard against the tiger and effectively scaring it off. To give you a better idea of how this happened, keep in mind that the three men were on a boat and that the tiger jumped into it from the watery mangroves. It would have taken the crab fisherman underwater and then swam away with him if it hadn't been for his friends pushing the huge feline into the water. They successfully scared it back into the mangroves where it vanished. Number 6. Alligator dog attack. There has been yet another horrifying alligator attack in Florida. This time, a woman walking her dog became the victim of a violent gator ambush. According to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the victim was 43 years old at the time of the attack. The alligator slithered out of the water and tried to snatch her dog, but missed. At the last second, the woman managed to pull her dog to safety, but as she did so, she slipped, and her foot flew out in front of her and went straight into the alligator's mouth. The alligator then tore into the soft flesh of the woman's leg, causing her to fall over. In her haste to save her dog, she accidentally got herself bitten. Thankfully, this all went down in a neighborhood, near a small lake that is surrounded by houses. A witness was able to call 911 while the victim's friend used his pants to make a tourniquet. That's how bad the bite was. The woman was bleeding profusely. The alligator was estimated to be at least 7 feet long, making it an absolute beast. The victim thankfully didn't lose her leg. Alligator attacks, though not extremely common, happen more often than you'd expect. After all, there are alligators in all of Florida's 67 counties. These animals are just something that people who live in the state deal with day to day. The Florida Wildlife Commission recently estimated there are about 1 million of them. Number 5. Lisa and the Great White Shark. Lisa Mondi had a rather unpleasant encounter with a great white shark while wakeboarding off the coast of New South Wales in Australia. A vicious great white surprised her and tried to bite off her arm. This happened a while ago, back in March of 2011. She initially fell off her wakeboard and into the sea, and was left treading water as she waited for the boat to return. As she waited, the shark approached. It came from below, silent and invisible. When it clamped its teeth onto Lisa, she hardly even knew what was happening. It started by biting her face and neck, then moving to her left arm and ripping out her branchial artery. Before the boat even had a chance to turn around, Lisa was already dangerously close to bleeding to death in the water. The boat did eventually make it back to Lisa. She was then rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. At first, doctors feared they would have to amputate her arm. Just one bite from the shark had ripped into the muscle so savagely that her arm was barely hanging on. She had to undergo several different operations in which doctors struggled to properly fix up her arm so that she might use it again one day. Thankfully for her, their attempts were successful. But the most shocking part of this story is that after all of the trouble, Lisa went back to the very same place where she had originally been attacked. She went diving in an underwater shark cage to try and find the predator that almost killed her. Lisa wasn't going to let a shark attack keep her from the water. Number 4. Trampled by a camel. In Texas, 2 people were tragically trampled to death at a local farm in an unusual case. One of the victims happened to be the owner of the farm, 72-year-old Peggy McNair. The other victim was Mark Meir, who had gone into the animal pen because their water trough had frozen over, and he was trying to make sure they had water to drink. Sadly for both victims, the male camel took their intrusion as a direct insult against himself and became violently aggressive. The camel was in something called rut, which is when a male camel is in its peak time of sexual excitement. It viewed the 2 humans as competition for its mating rights and went ahead and attacked them. The camel charged Mark as he tried to escape the pen, and Peggy tried to close the gate to save him, but both were too slow. According to reporters, by the time the deputies arrived at the scene, both victims were already dead, and the 3 camels in the cage were going berserk. The male camel was ultimately put to death as a result of the incident. Number 3. Romanian brown bear. In Romania, a bear killed 3 men in just over a month. A fisherman was killed in early October, a man was set upon near his home late that same month, and a shepherd was killed at the edge of a forest in central Transylvania as he tended to his flock just after that. For the year, that brings the total fatalities by bear attacks to 6. However, there were plenty more non-fatal attacks reported that never wound up in the news. As you can probably tell, this is a shocking number of bear attacks. It's especially shocking considering between 2000 and 2015, only 11 people were killed by bears in Romania. The bear population is increasing, according to gamekeeper Carolee Pal, and the politicians of Romania are now desperately trying to get rid of them. The issue is that the brown bear is a protected carnivore in Europe, making it illegal to kill them. Romania got the short end of the stick because they have the largest concentration of them, somewhere around 6,000 of the potentially dangerous predators right now. Bears are damaging cars, ruining crops, killing fishermen, and causing general mayhem. They've even started to cause car accidents because there are so many of them wandering across the roads. Poor bears, they don't know what's going on. Number 2. Man versus Seagull. An appalling scene was captured on video recently showing a fight between a man and a seagull. But this scary animal attack is a little different than the other ones I've told you about today. In this case, the human is actually the aggressive animal. The footage was taken in Devon in the UK. A group of tourists were watching the flocks of seagulls flying around the seawall when they witnessed something that nobody should ever have to witness in their life. There was a man standing by the seawall, and he looked like a local. He had a donut in his hand, but one of the seagulls snapped it out of his grip and threatened to fly away with it. Before the seagull could get away, the man grabbed it by its neck, and then he went on to strangle the seagull with unbridled violence. He strangled the seabird in full view of bystanders. When he was done strangling the poor bird, he then threw it over the seawall like a piece of garbage. To wrap up the carnage nicely, he then picked up his donut and continued to eat it. The tourists were more shocked than anybody because the guy looked at them, licked his fingers, and acted as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary, as if strangling a bird isn't a completely insane response to attempted donut theft. Number 1. A deadly pet. A man named Daniel Brandon, 31 years old, died inside his home near the town of Basingstoke, Hampshire. The cause of death was asphyxiation. The thing that asphyxiated Daniel was his very own pet python, an animal that he called his baby. Its real name was Tiny, a female African rock python that was discovered near his dead body. According to coroner Andrew Bradley, there is absolutely no doubt that Daniel Brandon died as a result of his rock python wrapping itself around his throat and literally squeezing the life out of him. But what makes this terrifying attack especially tragic is that Daniel had been keeping snakes for at least 16 years. Tiny was only one of 10 snakes he had in his room, along with a small collection of 12 tarantulas. His mother told local news that Daniel had been keeping Tiny since the snake was small enough to fit in his hand. At the time that it killed him, it was 8 feet long, and yet the attack came out of nowhere. Daniel never felt he was in danger, never had had a confrontation with the snake, and then one day, everything just changed. Daniel was found unconscious on the floor of his bedroom with the snake coiled underneath the cabinet. As far as we know, the African rock python showed absolutely no remorse. Thanks for watching. What's the scariest animal attack you've ever experienced? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. We've got lots more videos coming up. See you next time. Bye!